Alrighty, here we go. My name is Travis Neville. This is the Travis Neville Podcast, and I had the pleasure of recording a show talking to Alexi Turner. She is a relationship coach. She's a super upbeat, very intelligent, very well put together, impressive individual. And we had a great conversation about gender roles and relationships and masculinity and femininity, and it was awesome. I was so excited to get her to do a show with me. And she was so kind to get up at she's on California time over here in Michigan, and she's like, well, I can do, basically it was going to be 8 a.m. her time, right? And for me here, that's like 11, so it wasn't that tough. And she gets on camera and she's perfect, put together, looks great, was super sharp, and like I said, great conversation. I'm excited to be able to show this to you guys. So here it is, me speaking with Alexi Turner, and please check out her stuff on social media. You'll be very impressed. I'm so excited. You look fantastic for 8 o'clock in the morning. You must get up pretty early.
Yeah, sometimes. This morning I was jogging, but...
Oh, good. So how far did you go?
What do you mean?
I thought you said jogging.
No, dragging. I was dragging. I was tired, yeah.
Must be that West Coast accent I'm not picking up exactly. I live in Michigan. So
West Coast, yeah.
Did you grow up there? Did you grow up in California?
No, I grew up in Arkansas, actually, in North Carolina.
Okay, that makes sense why you think the way you do. I bet you stick out like a sore thumb living where you do now.
Yeah, and then I lived in New York City for 13 years, but I've been here for the past 2-3 years.
Well, why don't you walk me through that? I mean, how'd you bounce all over like you did?
I was a military brat. So my dad was in the Air Force, and out of all the places we got stationed, we got sent to Arkansas, which is, everybody gets Germany, all these cool places, or
sure.
But it was actually a great place. I loved living in Arkansas, and my family's from North Carolina, so we moved back there. And then I went to fashion school in New York City. I lived the whole New York City life for many years, which was a lot of fun. I'm writing a book about, and you kind of, after a while, get burnt out. Each year goes by in Manhattan and you're like, this is great. And then after a while, you're like, this great. I don't know if this is great.
What is it that wears on you? I know what would drive me nuts about it, but
it's just, I'm an empath, so I can feel people's energies. Sure. And you're on top of people, next to people, always around people, in the subway with people. And, it's expensive. Whenever it snows, it's difficult because you have to trek around in the snow, and the apartments are small and it's not very sunny sometimes. I wanted more sun. I wanted a better lifestyle. I go walk on the beach every day, which is really calming for me. So I just wanted kind of a change of pace a little bit. That's
cool. I completely understand that. I have to go to New York City for the first time next week, actually. I don't know if you've heard of. Yeah, I've never been there. I don't know if you've heard of Sven Erlandson. He wrote a book called There's a Hole in My Love Cup. He's got a thing called Badass Counseling. Super excited to meet that guy, and I'm going to drive out there. So I'm going to try to make it an adventure. But any tips? I mean, what do you do or not do in New York? I want to stay safe and alive.
What part of the city are you staying in?
So he's in Midtown. So I'm just looking at the bridge. I kind of cross, and I'm kind of right there. So yeah, he's in Midtown.
So, but you're staying in Queens?
No, I'll stay right there. I got a hotel that's very close to where his office is.
Okay. Are you on the west side or the east side?
The west side.
Okay. So do you know what street you're on?
26. Does that sound right? I'm pulling that right out of my...
It's more Chelsea-ish area.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I could look it up on a map, but I mean, how about just general New York City do's and don'ts? You know what I mean? Because I'm going to be like a fish out of water completely. I'm a country boy.
Yeah. Do's and don'ts. Well, you'll be kind of near Chelsea, which is actually where my school is, where I lived the first couple of years. My school's on 27th and 7th, the Fashion Institute. You'll see it.
Okay.
What else can you do there? I like the restaurants there. I can send you a thing of restaurants to go to. Central Park is cool.
Yeah, I'll definitely go for a jog at Central Park. I'm a runner, and everybody's not like in every movie, people are running in Central Park. So
Yeah,
I
and
want to
then
check
there's
that out.
like this. There's a cute little restaurant on Central Park South and 57th called Sarah Beth's. That's pretty popular, like
Yeah.
right underneath Central Park. You can go to for like breakfast or brunch. The Time Warner Center is cool. There's some like really cool restaurants inside of there. If you like really cool like old fashioned cocktails, there's a place called
I
Center
do.
Bar in Time Warner Center, and it like overlooks the park, which is really nice. I would go into the plaza. The plaza's beautiful. It's on 57th and 5th, like that whole
And that
area.
means I'm moving further north as those numbers go up, correct? Like towards
Yeah, well,
towards the park.
Time Warner Center is like on 59th and like here's Central Park, and then
Yep.
here's the west side. So like
Yep.
it's right next to Central Park on the west side,
Okay.
and then the plaza is like on the east side, and they're all in walking distance. And Sarah Beth's is like right in the middle. So there's that.
Sounds like I can't go wrong. Sounds like there's a lot of places to go check out. That would be really cool.
Yeah, like I do itineraries for people sometimes who go to New York, because I mean I know it like the back of my hand. I know all the good places to go eat and that kind of stuff. But I'm not really much of like I mean, I guess you could go down to Wall Street. Wall Street's a really cool area. You could take the subway down there really quick and see all the old like architecture. There's like some old steak houses down there that are really cool, like Delmonico's. And then you obviously have like the World Trade Center, like the new buildings that were built. Yeah, that's cool. Soho's, I don't know. People go to Soho for shopping. It's like not really my favorite area.
Yeah, I don't shop.
Yeah.
Not a shopper. So
yeah.
let's dig in. I have your time here, and I want to make sure that we're using it efficiently. What got you going on what you do? You talk a lot about archetypes, and these are the best I can figure personality types. What your kind of your core situation is, and I hear you a lot of times kind of correct people. They'll say, "Hey, I'm doing this," and you'll say, "No, but that's not really who you are," kind of thing. Or at least that's what I'm picking up from it. What got you started learning about this sort of thing, and what interested you in it?
It totally fell into my lab. I mean, I love studying human psychology.
Me too.
And I've been doing it for many years. And I stumbled upon this Russian woman, Natalia Klobikina, several years ago. I was going through a breakup at the time, and she taught this stuff. And I started taking, I started studying with her and studied with her for about 2 years. And she would teach about archetypes. She was a family psychologist. She's like one of the top marriage counselors in Russia. And it just like opened my eyes, and like things just started to kind of like make so much sense. And
Right.
Because different archetypes of men need different things, and I had dated this archetype of man, and I behaved this way which he didn't like, but then this man loved the way when I acted like that. So and then I'm like, but then we're told that like all men like this, and then I realized, well, that's not really true, because if you cry to a ruler, like he'll jump into action. But if you cry to a manager, he'll be like, you need to be a queen, like stop crying, toughen up kind of thing. Right. So
Sure.
It's just kind of learning like who you are and like your best match, because I've dated the wrong matches for me for a long time and wasn't really getting anywhere with my dating life, because I wasn't dating the right guy for me, because I also wasn't really behaving in my correct energy either. I was behaving the way that society told me. My mom.
So you were drawing the wrong type.
Yeah, my mom wanted me to be a queen like her, Miss Independent and stuff. I'm not like that. I'm like needy. I like don't care as much about like a huge career and like all this stuff. So like I would attract in rulers, but I would end up dating like more manager archetypes. But the rulers are better for me than the managers. And
so just you hit on something I think is pretty important there. I mean, I'm pretty sure I sent you a copy of my new book, correct? I sent you like a PDF of it.
I didn't see
I'll email it to you. Anyway,
okay.
It's called Reviving Masculinity. it hasn't printed yet, but I have a like a paper printout of it. So awesome. I've got these kind of core traits that I am telling, men to, and obviously, I highlighted kind of some of the bigger ones, and I threw violent in there because it's very provocative. I do a good job of explaining it, but what I'm trying to ask you is
Jordan Peterson also says like men are supposed to be like
monsters.
Yeah.
I mean, Jordan Peterson, he's I've got a picture of him over my mantle. I mean, he kind of guides a lot of the work that I do. I mean, he's saying things that just aren't popular, and that's what makes it so great. And you just said something that wasn't as popular either, and that's that, women don't, all women, I think, are taught that you're supposed to be this independent, hard driving, do everything a man can do. And I think a lot of women aren't served by that. It's the same, it makes me feel the same way I felt when I was a teacher and we were sending every kid to college. There were so many of them that would have been way better served by just starting a business or something like that. So your thoughts on that? I mean, do you feel like, am I kind of beating around the bush here? Or am I making sense that, the world's going to push women to be a certain way, and it's not the best for a lot of them?
Yeah, they're teaching us to behave like men. I mean, we're run by estrogen. We don't have that like energy in us to wake up early and go fight the day all day long and, work and, do all this. Maybe some women do,
Some
right?
do. Yeah. Something that's fine.
Yeah. And then also, even with like hookup culture, for instance, like the empowerment of like sleeping around and blah, 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 whatever. But like you create attachments to people with your brain, the same hormone that like lights up in your brain when you give birth, like, that releases when you fall in
Dopamine.
love, also releases, yeah, whenever
Yeah.
you are having sex. So you're falling in love essentially with all these men, unless you're like a narcissist and you don't feel things, which most women feel when they,
Yeah.
have sex. So now they're
Men do too, but yeah,
they're
less
creating
so,
all,
less so.
yeah, they're creating all these connections with all these people, and then they become emotionally like messed up when the man doesn't want a relationship or she can't get over him. And you have a lot of clients that will like kind of hook up with men, and then it takes them years to get over this guy, but the guy really didn't do anything for them. They just fell in love with him through just that sex hormone.
Chemical. Yeah.
Yeah. And, we're not taught to really be traditional women anymore. I had a client the other day who, she really wanted to be the wife of her boyfriend. And her boyfriend was like, well, she didn't want to clean or cook. She didn't want to cook for me. She didn't want to kind of play that role. And I want a woman to be my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And on the phone, she was like, well, I'd rather be Miss Independent. And then like later on in the conversation, she was like, well, I wouldn't mind being taken care of and cooking and whatever for a man. It's like women are so confused because they believe that cooking and cleaning and doing those kind of like household
They
things,
think they're menial. They think they're like demeaning.
Yeah, they think it's like beneath them. Like, how dare you think that that's all I can offer the world? I have so much more to offer. And then, they kind of, I had another client yesterday, a man, who him and his wife got divorced because she was so dominating and controlling and her way or no way, and weaponized sex against him, and like also didn't really want to play the traditional role, but like also wanted him to provide. And it's like women are so confused about men and relationships, and I guess, I think you can work obviously and like have a family, but it's very hard. It's hard to do it all.
I say that
you can do it all.
I've said that over and over again, that the world is expecting women to be able to do it all. And it's you get out what you put in. I mean, if I want to be, I play guitar. I was playing guitar before I called you. And if I want to be a great guitar player, I got to play it all day. Well, I got other shit to do. You know what I mean? Like, I can't. Like, so it's the same way for a man or a woman. You want to have a great career? That's awesome. Go do it. Other things are going to go to the wayside. You want to be a great parent. Cool. But some things are probably going to go to the wayside. No one can be awesome at everything. It's an impossible dynamic that unfortunately, I think that feminism has set up.
Yeah, somebody had said something. Well, this one girl had commented on one of my videos being like, my mom was a passionate engineer. My grandmother was a passionate scientist. My sister's a passionate interior designer. They're all moms, right? And blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, not all women can do the 9-to-5 thing, be a great mom, be a great wife. And somebody had said, like, you kind of have to choose too, like mom, wife, mom, work, work,
wife,
husband,
mom,
no kids, like they're, doing all three is like, cause you're at work all day, you're exhausted, you come home, take care of the kids, and then you're expected to also have energy to like make love to your husband. And usually it's the relationship with your husband that ends up failing because he's being neglected or you're being neglected. All of your energy is going to the kids and work. And then that's why there's so many divorces, is because, the last thing in the priority list is your marriage.
Well, on the male side, I very much agree with you, but I don't think men are devoid of responsibility there, accountability. I would tell you that it's a male thing to not complain, to be able to be like, oh, I can handle this, I'll be fine. So as that kind of neglect, and it probably in most cases, as you're describing it, isn't conscious, those women aren't trying to neglect their husbands, but the husbands are being neglected, and they're going, you know what, I can deal with this. I want to support her. I want this, I want that. And we'll swallow down our needs. And then it pops out somewhere else and it becomes a huge problem. I don't know. I wonder if you run into that kind of issue. I feel like, men are taught to, keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, work hard, and
yeah, they are.
They should talk more about what they're feeling is what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Yeah, I think so too. But the problem is like, when you listen, I think of course, there's like, positives, negatives on each gender. I'm not like saying it's only the woman's fault, but I think sometimes when you talk to a woman and you're like, well, your husband really wants this from you, she'll be like, well, what about me? What about my needs? Like, I need more from him. I need him to do this. I need him. You know what I mean? It turns into this thing like they stop thinking about their husband and it's all about them. And I notice that it's more like this with women than it is with men.
Oh, I agree. But it's not popular to say that. You know it. You know what I mean? Like these are the comments I'll get when I post this stuff, our show here, as long as we both agree. It's just going to be a bunch of women complaining that, what I mean? That's what I'm going to hear. It's the craziest thing. I get like, I would tell you 80% of my followers are men, but 85% of my commenters are women. It's the weirdest thing. I still can't really figure that out. You're smiling like you know what's going on. You tell me why you think that is.
They all have opinions. I don't know. I guess they all have opinions. They all, I have the same thing. Actually, when I started my TikTok, my algorithm was 72% female. I was teaching about femininity.
Yep.
And then I started doing like more pro male content kind of, or like understanding male content.
Yeah, and that's why I hear it. I hear it as understanding men. The way.
Yeah, and my algorithm is now 72% men, and I guess what, like 26% something, like it's lower now with women, but kind of the same a little bit. I guess I have a mix of both women and men, but I notice a lot of women who like obsessively comment, like they comment on every single video. They're like not even following me. I'm like, why are you here?
Yeah.
You're not even following me.
That drives me nuts. And it seems like the turns. Go ahead.
I was just saying, but they want to argue with me. They have an opinion. It's like, well, if you feel so strong about what you believe, why don't you do some videos on here and
that's what I was just going to say. The commenters that want to leave turd bombs for me, I look at their profiles and they don't have anything. They haven't posted anything ever. Like never taken a risk ever. They just have like user XYZ3.
Yeah,
those are the ones who want.
Yeah, or they're just like hiding who they are. But I get told a lot that I'm like giving damaging information to females and I'm hurting them, and this kind of thing.
Well, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, what are your clients telling you? How are their lives improving? I would assume they're improving, or you wouldn't be building a business.
My clients have like amazing success with me, like really soon too. Like I'll work with a client like once, and then I have so many messages from this week of people that I worked with that like had breakthroughs in so many areas, like just like that, And one girl I started working with, she wanted to attract in a ruler archetype, had never been with one. And bam, like that first week she attracted in this guy. I coached her through like dealing with him. The guy's like totally into her. They're like now dating. She's like, I've never felt so adored and loved by a man. And, she had always dated men that kind of like ignored her and like would use her and stuff. And she totally flipped that and attracted a great guy. I did a 3-month program with a male client who had been married for 17 years. And we did only 3 sessions. And through the work I did with him, like his whole marriage changed, his wife changed. She wanted to take courses with me. Their marriage is doing so well that like, I gave him 12 sessions. He's only done 3. And he's like, I don't even need you anymore. Like that's
exactly what you want to hear. I mean, it doesn't help your pocketbook, but you're helping people. That's great stuff.
Well, he already paid me. The $1,500,
Even better.
like he already paid for the program, but he was like, I'll come back whenever I need you. And I haven't heard from him in 2 months. So, you know, I know what I do and what I teach like is successful. I had another girl, I started doing dating profiles for people. So I started having clients being like, can you help me with my dating profile? Mm-hmm. And then one girl, I did her dating profile for her, and she messaged me that day with this like guy who sent her like a long thing. And she was like, I've never had like such engagement from men before. And she actually told me yesterday, she was so overwhelmed that she was getting so many matches that like she like didn't know what to do. And I was like, just take your time, you know, like because she wasn't used to so much.
Good problem to have. So how, I mean, I don't need you don't need to give away your secrets, but I assume you're doing this with words more than with photos, as far as how you're dialing up the dating profiles.
I redid her description. I did all of my clients, like, you know, who they are, what they're looking for. I had a guy who booked me in the service yesterday, and, you know, he's like this successful guy, but he's like kind of shy about it. And like, I'm like, talk about the things that make you great. And he's like, but isn't that bragging? He's been in a relationship for 10 years. And
that's why he's not bragging. That makes sense.
He doesn't know, right? Like he's kind of like lost. And I'm like, no, you have to be confident in who you are. You have to, you know, and then I was like, say you want this, this, and this is what you want. And he was like, but like, what if, you know, because he wants a girl that cooks. I'm like, say you want a woman who loves to cook. And he's like, what if these women are offended? I'm like, well, you don't want those women. You want
the ones you don't want. That's exactly right. Yeah, you can't be worried about
clear about what you want, or you're going to attract in like all kinds of stuff and then waste your time and money on taking these wrong women out to dinner, you know?
So give me, if you could, I mean, this is your opportunity to plug yourself. Give me the rundown on the archetypes. How do you figure out who's what? How do you figure out what fits with whom? Is it like, if I came to you and I said, hey, you know, I'm struggling in the dating world, and just with that conversation, you can kind of figure out who I am and what I should be looking for? I mean, how does it work?
Yeah, we talk about, you know, I've kind of noticed that, you know, I go over all this in my workshops, but I kind of noticed, I learned that, you know, men were strong in one archetype. Women kind of were strong in two. We can kind of like be more flexible. Women are flexible beings. We give birth, right? Our bodies change every month. So we're more like fluid, and men are kind of like stable in one.
A little more rigid.
But I've kind of noticed that, you know, men who have entrepreneur traits also kind of, they're not shadow, but maybe they're like more feminine side is like the creator. And then I've noticed men who are rulers, sometimes they'll kind of like bleed into the manager as well. So like, I find that those two are kind of like the polarity of like, because the creator and manager are the feminine archetypes of the man, and the ruler entrepreneur are the masculine archetypes of the man. And if you can be like 100% a ruler, totally. But I've noticed ruler archetypes who also kind of have certain traits of the manager too. So I get questions about that a lot. Can a man be more than one? And I was told no, but I find that, you know, this one client I had, he was very much sounding like a creator, but the more I got to know him, he was actually an entrepreneur, but hadn't really developed into his full masculine confidence and glory, I guess you could say. He was kind of operating in this more sensitive, passive man. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I wonder if in that guy's case, what caused that kind of imbalance? Was it an environment? I assume it was an environmental thing, like the way he was raised.
He didn't have his father around growing
up. There it is. Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, a lot of my work, you know, Jordan Peterson talks about this. I also read a lot of Warren Farrell. He wrote a book called The Boy Crisis. And you know, I used to be a high school teacher, so education's kind of my thing, and the fatherlessness thing is huge. And there's so many factors that are taking men out of marriages, taking men out of children's lives. You know, in the schools, it's mostly women teaching. So as a boy, you're not getting that role model, and men more than women learn socially how to be adults. They got to see it. They got to see somebody doing it right. I think that women, as you said, more hormonal, more in tune with themselves, and you're gonna love that baby when you hold it. You don't have to see another mom doing it for you to know that feels good, right? But as a dad, you got to kind of learn how to be a dad, learn how to be a man, and it makes perfect sense that guy with no dad in his life gonna have a little gap there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I basically, I guess I go over this with the men and kind of determine, you know, where they're at and who they are. I had a client yesterday, another man. I have a lot of male clients. People ask me if I work with men, and I do. And he had gotten out of a divorce. He'd been married with this woman for a long time. And she was very much a queen archetype, but he was an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs need girl mother archetypes. And I started naming off the qualities of the girl mother. And he's like, oh man, I'd love a woman like that.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. Yeah. When you hit it right, it feels amazing, right? Yeah.
And the wife he had was like not the right fit, not the right archetype for him. And it was the reason why they had a rift in their marriage.
So what's the deal? I mean, I know that there's a divide between, what your conscious mind wants and what your genetic core being wants, right? So I would imagine you run into this a lot. Some people who have been attracted to and fallen in love with and created a relationship with something that they're attracted to on a genetic level, but logically it's not going to work, or vice versa. They check all the boxes, but you're not in love with them. So how do you make that make sense? Like, hey, I should be with this kind of person, but how do I guess, how do you make that jive? How do you make that work? Because a lot of times you're going to be attracted to something that isn't good for you or isn't the right fit, and you can't control that part of it. You can't control what you're attracted to, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I find that, I don't know, because I find a lot of women who really want the ruler. Like, he sounds, for whatever reason.
Yeah, of course it sounds great to them, right? But what if they're not attracted to it, right? Of course it sounds great.
But then, I talk to, like, I have one client who is a queen through and through, and she's kind of having issues with her husband because, they've been married a long time. They have 6 kids. She loves him to death. He treats her amazing. But she's like, I wish he would take more initiative. I wish he'd be like more masculine. And I said, yes, but if he did take the reign of the home, if he was more masculine and controlling, you would hate that. And she was like, you're right, I would, So it's like about finding, like, and she's naturally attracted to him. So I think sometimes, like, women will I find that women really fall in love with men for either, like, after the sex phase, like, I have a client who's like totally in love with this guy who's like such a bad guy, but he talked a good game and they had sex really early. So he hooked her, in, but sometimes women will try to be interested in a guy because he has money or something, but it never works. It just doesn't work. If your heart is not in it, it won't work. It just won't. Yeah.
I think what you're describing is, I talk about this a lot, the Superman Clark Kent bind, right? So I think a lot of women will, of course they're going to fall in love with Superman. Like, holy shit, he's Superman. Like, he can do anything. He's so physically strong and he's dominant and he's maybe what you would call a ruler. I don't know the archetypes that well, but in charge, alpha, all that stuff. And from a core perspective, she's going to love that, but eventually she's going to go, well, I need him to be able to talk about his feelings, and I need to be able to do all these Clark Kent things, right? And then they'll wish they were more with a little bit, have a little more beta in them. And then the opposite's true as well. You're with this great provider and he's kind of a beta type and he's softer, and I wish he'd be more masculine. And there's this, which, nobody's both, right? Nobody's both. It's the same thing for men. I think there's the perfect stay-at-home mom, motherly type, all that stuff. And then there's the porn star. You can't, it's never going to be both. So you can't want both. I don't know. You probably run into that crux too.
Well, it depends on the archetype of man, really. Like, the ruler needs a girl lover because he does need that porn star mixed with kind of like that, like, woman who's kind of like more innocent, naive, like looks up to him, like kind of puts him on a pedestal, that kind of stuff. Men
like to be respected. That's for sure. I know I look for that. I want somebody who is impressed with me. Who wouldn't be, right?
Yeah. And, but the creator archetype, he doesn't really care about like having the porn star kind of woman. He'd rather have like a mother archetype, a queen mother archetype for him. And then, the entrepreneur, he likes that kind of mother archetype mixed with a girl. And then the manager likes the queen porn star, like woman who's like in charge of her life and like doesn't need him, like kind of like the Kim Kardashian type, but like is not as drawn to a woman who is like a stay-at-home mom. So like different archetypes kind of crave different things. Obviously, like, good sex is important for most
across
people.
The board, right?
For the creator archetype, not as much, because he's not as sexual. He's like the least sexual, and that's his kind of downfall.
He's in his mind. It makes sense.
Yeah, he's in his mind. He's very loyal to his wife, but like kind of at the same time, like, doesn't really mind if she gets her sexual needs met elsewhere. He doesn't have it in him to initiate sex. And, you know, couples have come in where the wife is like, I just want you to like, you know, and he's like, but like, I don't know, like, you know, like he doesn't have it in him to kind of like
take charge. Yeah.
take charge. Yeah.
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 So you said you said something mixed with a girl. That's a separate thing, like a girl archetype.
Yeah.
Did I miss that?
Yeah. So there's a girl archetype, lover, queen, mother. And then
Okay.
there's the blends of the two. So like the queen mother is the female version of the ruler.
Okay.
The girl lover is the female version of the manager. So there's like different, and then that's why the manager and the girl lover don't mix, because they're too similar.
Oh, that's key. That's huge. The people, you know, opposites attract, obviously. Sorry to interrupt you. Keep going.
Yeah, well, it's like the queen mother, right? Like the queen wants the ruler. She's like, well, the king needs his queen. And it's like, well, actually the king doesn't want a queen because he doesn't want to compete with somebody. He wants a woman, you know, but he needs somebody who's sexual. And the girl lover, the lover archetype is the sexual archetype. The perfect example of like a girl lover would be Marilyn Monroe. She's very naive. I mean, she's smart,
aloof,
but like
aloof.
She kind of plays her, I want to say she's aloof. She's not aloof because she's very doting on the men that she's with. That's her lover energy. Yeah, she's because rulers don't really want an aloof woman. They want a woman that is going to be doting on him, loving on him, but like, you know, using her sex appeal and stuff, but like not trying to outsmart him, not trying to outcompete him.
Well, it makes sense. That guy's competing all day long. He doesn't want to compete at home.
Yeah, and she's just easy. The girl is easy. She's optimistic. She's happy. She's positive.
Ray
you know,
sunshine.
she just brings good vibes to him. But she also has that like sexual allure too, like Marilyn Monroe had. You know, like, but rulers want a woman who's sexy behind the scenes. They don't want a woman who's like putting her naked photos all over the internet. And you know,
I don't know if anybody wants that.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I feel like some men don't care. I dated a guy once who was a manager, and he was like, you should post more sexy photos and get more followers. He wanted me to be this like queen of the internet. And it's so funny because he wanted me to get on TikTok. And this was like at the very beginning of TikTok. And I just didn't want to. I'm not much of a, like, I don't need the following stuff. Like for me, I don't care about social media. If you look at my Instagram, I have like 10 photos. So anyway,
I did. And yeah, that's all you have.
Yeah, we ended up like, we went on like a few dates, but like I noticed like he wanted to do the 50-50 thing, blah, 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 whatever. So we kind of stopped talking, and he messaged me like a few weeks ago and was like, hope you're doing well, ... And then I realized, because he's like all about TikTok. I'm like, you know, he probably saw my TikTok and like saw that I'm doing really well. And he's like,
oh, I lost out.
Let me slide back in here. But yeah,
yeah, you are doing really well. It seems like everything you're doing is doing well. I'm going to left turn the conversation here a little bit.
Yeah.
How did you get going on what you do? I mean, was it social media driven? Is that how you got started making a business out of this? Or did you have the business first and then branch into social media? How did that go?
Yeah. I've been doing this for about 10 years. And I've been doing intuitive work for about 10 years. I've been doing the archetypes and stuff like this for about 4 to 5. And I had a YouTube channel originally, and I kind of started on YouTube and built it out. And then through like word of mouth and stuff like that. I'm not a really good promoter of my business because I'm just kind of like, you know what, if people are going to come.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not really good with like the marketing thing, but and then I randomly, my friend kept pushing me to go on TikTok. She's like, I feel like you do so well, and she's like pushing. So I actually went on there. I had like 100 followers like in October, and I wasn't really posting this kind of content, and I stumbled upon a young woman's video. She was talking about like what rich men like, and I commented and I gave my input on like what I've seen with rulers, if you will. And her video went viral. My comment went viral. People started coming to my page. So on the backs of that, I did a clickbait video, and my clickbait video went viral. And then my content just, you know, spiraled, and like 3 months, I have 150,000 followers. So it happened like really fast.
Yeah, it's crazy. You never know on any of the social media what's going to kind of hook them. I'm trying to obviously talk about the things that you and I are talking about. That's what my podcast's about. So my books are about. But I get on TikTok and I post a video of my cabin. I've got this cabin up in the woods that I built, and gets like 220. There's way more views than I've ever seen, but 220,000 views. And I'm like, that doesn't have anything to do with what I'm doing. And I'm not sure exactly how to feel about that. I guess it's kind of connected because I talk about masculinity a lot and how you need to be able to be capable and be able to do things like that, build buildings and cut wood and I don't know.
Maybe you
It's
can
sort of
do,
connected, but
maybe you can do a little bit of both. Maybe you
yeah,
can
that's what
do
I'm
like,
gonna do.
yeah, like teaching about how to build. Like I know so many men that like don't know how to do like basic things
Most,
like that.
most,
Yeah, so
yeah.
maybe you can teach things. You know, I actually have a friend from New York City who would like sit in his apartment and like watch this campfire YouTube channel all day. These like men like chopping wood and
Yeah.
building fires, and it was like his thing. He liked to watch, and he worked in tech, so like he in New York City, so he's not like out in the woods, but like he, for
Yeah, he
some
can't be.
reason he had like this very like lumberjack like energy to him too. I'm like, you should move to like Connecticut where you're from and like go back into that kind of life. So yeah, I think that you could do a mix of like the podcast and then like teaching men, you know, how to be like masculine or
Yeah, I think that's what I'll end up doing. I mean, it's all kind of an adventure as I go here. It's only been a couple of years. It's going to take time to build it, but I know that I'm very interested in things like I just heard you make some comments, and I'm like, okay, I gotta talk to this girl. She knows some stuff, and to me, that's just really interesting. I think that again, going back to what I said earlier, there's just this big divide between what the world is telling you should do and what's going to make you happy. And I mean, that second one is really all that's important. I think it happens to men probably more than it happens to women. I think the world is trying to delete masculinity. It's trying
yeah.
to, I mean, there's this term of course, toxic masculinity, right? And the way that gets applied is basically anything masculine is toxic. And, you know, it's too bad because the people who are slinging that around are the same ones saying there are no good men out there. You know what I mean? And it's those traits that go ahead.
Yeah, I've done some research on like, you know, women who say toxic masculinity, and what they say is that it's the patriarchy masculinity of you can't share your feelings and you have to you know, be this machoism kind of guy. And you know, they're always kind of like anti-patriarchy, and it's like, well, if we don't have a patriarchy, are you wanting a matriarchy? Like, what is
Yeah,
the
what's the replacement?
solution? What's the replacement? You know, and how would that even look? And then it's interesting too, because they're like, well, men should talk about their feelings. But the most popular comment on one of my videos that has over 20,000 likes is a man who says, never share your emotions with a woman because she will use it against you later. She'll make you feel bad or whatever. So then it's like, then I'm confused because I'm like, wait, like all these women want men to share their feelings, but all these men are saying they do. And then they get trampled all over afterwards. Yeah. So it's kind of like,
yeah. So I don't know if have you read any of Brene Brown's stuff, but she's got, you know, she kind of makes a living out of telling men, well, everybody really, but men too, to be vulnerable. And she makes this, it has this one little section in her book, Daring Greatly. And do you know her already? Do you know who that is? Yeah. Brene Brown. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Where this guy comes up to her after I don't know, she did a speaking engagement or something that says, hey, listen, you can't do that shit. You know, as a man, you just can't, because I think that's the and I talk about this in my book too. That's the crossroads between what you're taught and what you think you should want and what you really want. You know, I mean, it's great to be
that he couldn't do.
Well, she was saying that he should be very vulnerable and he should share his feelings all the time and talk about the things that make him sad and feel open and feel able to cry. And I think that on a gut level, I mean, most women are going to be disgusted by that, you know, and it isn't even on the surface, but
I don't know. You know, I think about this all the time, right? Because like my partner, like he writes me love letters. He's very vulnerable with like how he feels about me. Like,
yeah, but you can do that confidently. You can say that, you know what I mean? I can tell you I love you and I think you're amazing. And that's not vulnerable. I don't think so. Not anyway, keep going.
Yeah. And, you know, he's always like my head, my heart, my soul. Like he's very poetic in the way that he speaks, but you know, he's been kind of dealing with some health things. And when he, you know, it's been kind of like this long-term health issue. And he kind of goes in hermit mode when he's dealing with this. And I'm like, just talk to me. How are you feeling? You know? And it's like, he won't. He's just like, let me go in my man cave.
And you're well developed. You're emotionally well developed and all that stuff. And you've thought all this through. So he's probably safe with you, but he wasn't with the ones before you.
You know, he did tell me that it's hard he wrote me this like beautiful 10-page letter, and he mentioned to me, like, I know you want to be there for me, but I've never had a woman there for me before, and I'm used to always doing things on my own. And I'm like, but I'm begging you to just like open up this space for me to like support you in this difficulty that you're in. And he just won't. He just, he lets me support him in his own way, which is, when he's really feeling bad, he just distances himself. And he's like in treatments, and it's a long story. It's a pretty serious situation, but it's like, I want to be there to support, but he doesn't want me to see him as weak because he's in the hospital, right? So it's kind of a delicate situation, but I get so frustrated because I'm like, just be vulnerable with me. But
you want to help. I mean, that's the angle that you're trying to get to, is, hey, I want to be here for you, I want to help you. And that's a great motivation. And his motivation is he's trying to help you too. And the way that he's trying to help you, and I don't know this guy, but is he's trying to make sure that he's not putting his burdens on you. He doesn't want to make your life harder.
That's exactly what he told me, actually. Yeah, he said he didn't want to put burdens on me and, make me sad for him or like stressed out for him or whatever. Like, he didn't want to be a burden on my life. And I'm like, what? Like, no, it's so interesting because I don't see it that way,
Right.
I mean,
and that's, it's like the love languages thing, right? So you know that you know how the love languages work. I'm sure that's pretty rudimentary, but if my love language is touch, that's going to be the easiest thing for me to do with you. I'm going to want to show my love for you that way. And it's the same way. That's the same kind of dynamic there, right? So he wants from you. He doesn't want you to make his life harder. Like, he wants a woman to make his life better and happier and all this stuff. And so then he doesn't want. He figures, well, if I want that from her, then she definitely wants that from me. So I don't want to do anything that's going to make her life tougher. Yeah, that's a tough one. I've been in that bind before too, and I spent a lot of time actually in my new book talking about that very thing. I think that was what I did wrong when I was married. I got divorced like 10 years ago, but that's what I did wrong is I wasn't honest about my feelings. Like I told you earlier, if men will hide that stuff, they won't say those things. And it's on us to be able to confidently, right, without being super weak, say, hey, listen, I need this from you. I need this from you. I can do lots of things on my own, but I need X, Y, and Z from you. And I didn't do that. So, and that's my own fault. And it's because I didn't want to make her life harder. I didn't want to put burdens on her. And in the end, ironically, of course, it made the relationship far worse. Right. And it made things go down the wrong road. But yeah, it's crazy. I love that you're, just in general, you're helping women to understand men, and you're helping men to understand women. I mean, that's hugely important.
Yeah, it is, because I mean, we're tribal beings. We're not meant to be alone. These women are, they always say, oh, the happiest demographic are single career women with no kids. And it's like, well, not really, because I looked at a study saying the most miserable women are the women in their 40s, career women, single with no kids.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. You got to look at the motivation there. Where are you getting your numbers from, right? If you're a single career woman, you don't want everybody to know that you're unhappy about it. So of course you're going to exaggerate all over social media and Facebook how happy your life is. You don't want people thinking, oh, I made this terrible mistake, I should have stayed married, right? Nobody does that. And I think that's a trap lots of people get caught in. I think that ends a lot of relationships, people being on social media talking about how great it is to be single. And really it's hard. Why would it not be hard, especially if you have kids involved? How could it not be harder if you just lost 50% of your ability to do stuff? That second person isn't in the house anymore. You know what I mean? It's got to be harder, right?
Yeah. And we're meant to be, with people. We're not meant to be alone. It's depressing to always be alone, right? So people are looking for these connections, and they don't understand how to build a relationship because they don't understand the opposite sex, or they don't understand how to build a relationship. Maybe they never saw one, and then they kind of create the same karma. I talk about karma
I talking about relationship karma between grandma and mother and you.
Like I had a client the other day who was in a relationship with this great guy, and he wasn't communicating with her the way she wanted him to. She wanted to marry. There was some things going on there, but ultimately he did want to marry her. He just wanted to kind of like focus on his work or whatever. But anyway, she ended up going and getting pregnant with another guy that she knew was a bad guy, that she knew had abusive tendencies, that she knew, and her dad was abusive. And she'd
There it
also
is.
had some trauma from childhood. And she's like, I'm
Yeah.
afraid that this man will give my children the same trauma that I had. I'm like, why would you have a kid with a man like this? Why? She's like, because I just wanted a kid. And I'm like, you're now recreating the karma of your mother and your grandmother, and you're doing the same cycle over and over again with your life. And now you're in a dangerous position having a kid with a dangerous man that you knew. I said, because the red flags are always there in the first 3 months. They're always there. I said, when did
I'd tell you sooner than that. I'd tell you it's sooner than that. Maybe it's different for men than women, but I mean, I'm not joking. I'll sit down on a first date and I'll be like, well, this is what's going to make it not work. I already know. Like, I already know. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. And, 3 months is when the mask kind of falls off. And I said, when did you see it? She said, pretty early on. He was having crazy road rage. He was cussing. He'd get belligerent about really small things. He like cussed her friend out at a restaurant, like all within the first couple months. And she decided to stay because she wanted to get pregnant. And I'm like, you made a
bad reason to stay.
Unwise decision. And now she's suffering and she knows, like, she's very open to like what I had to say. But, and then I asked, what was your dad like? Well, he was abusive. I'm like, so you chose your father, essentially, Yeah.
It's crazy how much pull that has, right? I mean, it's your sense of normal, right? And so much revolves around that. When you're a kid, that's what you're learning. You're learning what's normal and what isn't. And then, and that's indelible almost, I mean, it's very difficult to get past it. I did the same thing. My ex-wife was a lot like my dad, a guy that at the time I didn't have a very good relationship. I do now with, but it's crazy that normal, even if it's real dysfunctional, it'll trump everything.
Yeah. The first few people I had chosen were very much like my mother, who I have a very difficult relationship with. And, I've done a lot of healing work on it for the last 10 years. And that's why I do healing work with people, because I've done it on myself. And then I feel like I really broke that spell, and my partner now is very different than, anybody from the past, very different from my mom, just very different dynamics. So I know I've been able to really shift my karma in my relationships. Yeah.
So that, that goes back to that same issue we were kind of talking about. And again, without spilling the secret sauce, how do you go from, hey, I'm only kind of attracted to this one type and I know it's not good for me, to being able to be attracted to the right setup?
Yeah, that's difficult. I think it really comes down to having a perspective shift. Like, for instance, I have a friend who, I swear I tell her all the time, she must have been like a gangster's wife in a past life, because she chooses like the worst men, like men who've been in jail, men who like are bad with money, men, just drug addicts, like all kinds of bad men, right? And I looked in her birth chart, and I actually told her, I'm like, you should be a preacher. You should be doing something with preaching. And I feel like you're going to change your religion because of some astrology trends. And I do astrology too. I don't really like talk about it, but my grandmother was an astrologer, and she also had a placement. She also had a placement with working with, people in mental institutions or jails. And I told her this a few years ago. She worked in the beauty industry at the time. She was a skincare guru for like celebrities. And she was like, what? And she was like practicing Buddhism. And I said,
align, but anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, a few years later, her father passes away. She had this experience with this angel that came to get her dad. Like, she had this crazy, supernatural experience. She became this born again Christian. She's now preaching. She called me this morning saying that she's been asked to go to jails and psych wards to like help people. And she's like, all I can think about is what you told me 3 years ago that I never thought would. So now, instead of choosing the bad men, she actually ended up choosing a man at her church, a good man, a man she's attracted to, no weird quirks or whatever. And she really likes him because she's had a perspective shift on herself, on her mission in life. She has more like self-respect. She wants to please God. That's her,
That's her thing, sure.
Yeah. So she was like, I want to choose a man that God would be proud of. So now she's like, I know I can find a good man like this who shares my vision, and I'm also attracted to, and all these things. And when she set her sight on something better came in. But if you believe that you're only going to attract in the men that are the bad boys, the people that are bad for you. You're going to, but you have to change your self-concept that like, I deserve love.
That's it. That's what I was hoping we're going to get to. You've got to believe that you're good enough, that it's something that you can have and should have and ought to have, you know what I mean? And you deserve it. That's a tough thing for a lot of people to do. I think you can say that out loud outside of yourself or on some kind of social media, but really believe in it. Hey, I believe someone good. I deserve to have love in my life, and I deserve to have someone that I really want to be with, who isn't going to be a bunch of problems. To believe that I'm good enough for that, right? That a lot of people have to struggle with that piece.
Yeah, I mean, I think all relationships come with challenges because we grow through challenge. So I think challenges are healthy because, you know, there's polarity in life, right? There's good, there's bad. You get good comments, you get bad comments. It's just a part of life. But you have to find somebody that supports you in the challenges and knows how to blend with you in the challenges. And, you know, you're a team versus enemy in the challenge, right? So, yeah, and find, you know, like for instance, this woman was always choosing men that were womanizers. But at the same time, she had also resulted into being a mistress several times. And she was the other woman, and she had kind of balanced, you know, it's kind of like her karmic balance was that since she was with married men, now men that would cheat on her were choosing her. So she was now the other woman, and she was the woman getting cheated on, and she had to feel what it felt like to be betrayed like that, right? So it's like, you have to be so mindful of like your actions towards other people. A lot of times we believe in this world that, you know, especially in the law of attraction community, that everything revolves around me. Nothing will affect me if I don't believe it will. I can, you know, if I want to be with this man and he's married, who cares? Like, I can manifest him, like, you know, whatever the case is. But what we do to others, like, it's a mirror. Like, our environment is a mirror, right? So if you are attracting in a married man, there's something within you that believes that you're not chosen, or you have to fight other women to get the men that you want, or something like that, right? There's a reason why you're attracting in men that weren't available. If that makes sense.
You know, that mirror concept I talk about quite a bit. I'm very much with you on that. You skimmed over something there, the law of attraction community. What's that? I'm not familiar with that.
Well, if you go on YouTube, there's a lot of like law of attraction teachers that teach Neville Goddard, which you know, the Neville podcast I like. Neville Goddard's like a huge, you know, he was like the OG guy in the law of attraction in the early 1900s. They teach, you know, Abraham Hicks, or they teach The Secret. A lot of them are like Neville people. And I mean, there's a lot of these people, you know, even on TikTok, that teach about self-concept and the law of assumption and like all these things. And manifesting a specific person. This is very popular on the internet, like how to manifest somebody specific.
I manifest that's making somebody appear essentially in front of you.
Yeah, like you're putting your sights on a person and like you're visualizing them and they appear. And I've actually manifested going on dates with famous people that I manifested in really cool ways, but they were.
Did you get it done? Did you get it done?
Yeah. Good I manifested this one guy. It was so crazy. He's pretty well known. You'd probably know who he was, but he's pretty well known. He's got millions of followers, and he's a well-known speaker, big TED Talk speaker. And I emailed him wanting to meet with him like in the very beginning of his career, and he wrote me back, but like he didn't agree to meet. He was just answering my questions. And I randomly, my friend was like, let's fly to LA for fun. So we went to LA, and one day, long story short, we were driving around. He was sitting outside of a restaurant eating lunch. And I saw him and I approached him, and he was like, don't you live in New York? And it was kind of weird. And
he did remember who you were, though. That's cool.
He did. Yeah. So when we went back to New York, he met up with me for like coffee. And then I think he really enjoyed me. So then we went shopping, we went to lunch, we went to dinner, we spent like the whole day together. And, but he was, you know, a specific person that I had manifested. I said I wanted to meet him. And a week later, I ran into him in the middle of the street across the country from where I lived, you know. But, you know, some people will do these techniques to manifest married people. And they'll be like, well, yeah, they're like, well, you know, who knows, the wife can go find somebody she's happier with, or I'm doing them a favor, but, you know, but you're breaking up a family. Like, you know, it's not actually, I believe in the law of cause and effect, right? I believe like the causes you make come back to you. If you're like and then I asked these people, like, well, how would you feel if a woman was trying to manifest your husband away from you? Well, that wouldn't happen to me because I wouldn't manifest that in my experience, right? But like, anyway, going on a tangent with that. But yeah, the Law of Attraction community is a community of people that, do videos and teach this a lot, and it's pretty popular on YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have to look into that. Never heard of that one. I just thought it was, hey, be confident, handle yourself in the right way, and hopefully she'll walk across your path, right?
Yeah, well, you can manifest very specific things. You write things down, you visualize it, you believe in it, it starts to come in your peripheral. You have to change your subconscious mind. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot, about how our brain is like fired to wire in certain ways, and the only way you can change yourself, he says, to change your personal reality, you need a new personality. How do you do that? You change your brain, your mind, and you do that through repetition. You do that through different exercises.
Yeah, habits of thinking. That makes sense. I talk about that a lot too. That you can make the habit of brushing your teeth. You feel weird when you don't do it. That means it's a habit, right? Because you feel weird when you don't do it, or wearing your seatbelt, right? But the way that you think, it's exactly the same way, and it's subject to the same ideas. You just repeat some things, and you'll start thinking the way that you want to think if you just do it over and over again, I guess. But yeah. Well, hey, Alexi, I sure appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. I know I have a hard stop at noon, and I got to set some things up before then. I have so much enjoyed this.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed talking to you, and thank you for reaching out. And maybe we'll do another episode again in the future.
I would love that. In the meantime, you want to just let people know where they can find you. I'll put all your graphics up and that stuff. But where should they find you if they want to work with the Celestial Empress?
Yeah, you can. That was my YouTube name. You can find me on the Empress Collective on TikTok, or my website, which is alexiturner.com.
Okay. Alexi, thanks so much again for your time. I hope you have a great day.
You too, Travis.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.